Story 1. I moved into my dream Victorian home. Among my things was Grandma's antique rocking chair, dark wood, a family piece. It had been in our family for generations, carrying a comforting scent of lavender and old wood. A truly cherished heirloom. I placed it by the fireplace. It felt like family had settled into my new home, a comforting, familiar presence. Initially, the chair was a comfort. I'd sit, reading, enjoying the quiet, a warm, ancestral embrace. Then faint creaks when no one was near. Subtle sounds, easily dismissed, yet enough to make me pause. I dismissed these as old house quirks. Every old house has noises, right? I rationalized my unease. I'd see the chair slightly shifted, just enough to question my memory, nothing more, a minor adjustment. I'd tell myself I bumped it, or uneven floorboards, always an easy explanation. Yet the feeling of being watched, especially alone, grew. A prickling sensation on my neck, unsettling. A subtle chill swept through the room, despite heating. An unnatural, lingering cold, a strange presence. The subtle shifts turned distinct. I'd find the chair gently rocking, no one in the room, impossible. The rocking was slow, rhythmic, deliberate, as if someone had just risen. A ghostly, unseen presence. Objects on the mantelpiece found on the floor. A ceramic bird, a framed photo always near the chair. I had vivid, unsettling dreams whenever I fell asleep on the couch facing the chair. Disturbing visions. In these dreams, an old woman, face obscured, sat watching me. Her presence was menacing. The dreams felt too real. I'd wake in a cold sweat, her shadowy form burned into my mind. One night, a clear whisper, my name, from the chair. I was utterly alone. My blood ran cold. Soft, barely audible, but my name. Not an echo, not wind. A direct, chilling acknowledgement. Unforgettable. Driven by growing fear, I called my mother. I needed answers, a logical explanation for my haunted house. I asked about the chair's history, Grandma's connection. Mother sounded hesitant. She mentioned Grandma had an attachment to it, a special bond, reverently. My heart pounded. Then she added, it was a family protector. The word sent a shiver down my spine. A protector, from what, or for what? More terrifying than comforting. The house's presence became undeniable. No longer subtle, it asserted itself, making its existence known. I'd see fleeting shadows at vision's edge, movements vanishing, always just out of sight. A cold touch on my arm, a brush against my hair. No one was near. An icy sensation lingered. The distinct, slow creak of the chair became regular, a haunting rhythm in the night. I heard it from my bedroom through the quiet house, a lullaby of dread keeping me terrified. I tried to move the chair, to banish it. I grabbed its arms, determined to drag it out, but it felt impossibly heavy, rooted. My muscles strained, but it wouldn't budge. An unseen force. Pure, primal fear washed over me. This wasn't just furniture. Something malevolent held it. I knew then, with chilling certainty, it wasn't just a chair. It was a vessel, connected to something dark. I'll never forget that night. The climax came one stormy evening, wind howling, rain lashing. Thunder crashed, shaking the house. Power died, plunging everything into oppressive darkness. Armed with a flashlight, heart pounding, I went downstairs. A terrible premonition pulled me. My flashlight found the chair. It was rocking violently, frantic, but it was empty. Yet a clear indentation on the cushion. An invisible force propelled it, a palpable presence. As I watched, frozen, a dark, indistinct form solidified above the chair. A swirling mass. Slowly, horrifyingly, it took an old woman's outline. Wispy, but humanoid. My blood froze. Her eyes, two pinpricks of malevolent light, glowed, fixed on me, piercing my soul. Then a voice, ancient and raspy, it filled the room, not from the figure, but my mind. "You are mine now, just like the others." The words echoed, cold, possessive. My family's dark secret. "This house, this family, this chair, it is my domain." The voice, heavy with years of watching. "I have watched you, waited. You are the last." A chilling pronouncement sealing my fate. The figure reached a spectral, skeletal hand. An unbearable cold seized me, paralyzing me. I don't know how I escaped its grasp. A surge of desperate adrenaline, primal survival instinct. I ran blindly, stumbling through the dark house, out into the stormy night. Never looked back. I left everything. I never returned. That house still chills me to the bone. Even now, years later, I feel a faint, phantom chill. A cold spot, a shiver for no reason. Or hear a distant creak in my mind. It's still there, waiting. The heirloom's shadow is part of me now, a chilling legacy I can never escape. Story 2. My name is Sarah, and this happened to my family. Our comfortable suburban home was a sanctuary with my loving parents and younger brother, Leo. Life felt secure. Then the phone rang. It was Dad's sister, sounding hesitant. She explained that Uncle Arthur, Dad's estranged, elderly uncle, had suffered a fall. He needed a place to stay. Uncle Arthur. The name itself carried a chill. He was infamous in our family for being difficult, a recluse known for his sharp tongue and unsettling intensity. Despite Dad's obvious reluctance, family duty weighed heavily. Mom, ever the compassionate one, insisted we couldn't leave him alone. A decision made with heavy hearts. We prepared the guest room, a space usually reserved for joyous visits, now filled with an unspoken apprehension. A knot tightened in my stomach with each passing hour. Uncle Arthur arrived in a taxi, a frail figure stooped with age. Yet his eyes, dark and deep-set, held an unnerving intensity that belied his physical weakness. His gaze swept over us, lingering a moment too long on each family member. It felt less like a greeting and more like an assessment, cold and calculating. The initial interactions were awkward. He offered no pleasantries, only curt acknowledgments. Our attempts at polite conversation were met with unsettling silence. He quickly established peculiar habits. He would sit, observing us for long stretches, a silent, watchful presence that made the air thick with unspoken tension. Small personal items began to be rearranged. My favorite bookmark was moved, a photo on the mantelpiece subtly shifted. Nothing major, but enough to notice. During family dinners, he'd interject with subtly divisive comments. A quiet word to Mom about Dad's financial habits, a glance that implied disapproval. He'd praise Leo for a small task, then immediately criticize my efforts in a similar vein. Always a comparison, always a subtle wedge driven between us. Minor but unsettling occurrences began almost immediately after his arrival. My diary, which I kept hidden, seemed to have its pages out of order. A specific entry detailing a private fear was dog-eared. I knew I hadn't done that. A cold dread seeped into my heart, making me feel exposed. Leo's cherished Captain Comet action figure, his absolute favorite toy, went missing from his bedside table. He was inconsolable, searching everywhere. Days later, I found Captain Comet, not in Leo's room, but tucked away, almost hidden, under Uncle Arthur's bed. It felt deliberate, a silent message. Then came the scratching. At night, faint but distinct, scratching noises emanated from the attic directly above Arthur's room. It was unnerving. We tried to dismiss it as rats, but the rhythm was too deliberate, too persistent. It sounded like something attempting to claw its way out or in. Our family dog, Buster, usually so docile, became agitated. He'd whine softly, his fur bristling, whenever he passed Arthur's closed bedroom door. He never barked, never growled, just a low, mournful sound, like a warning he couldn't vocalize. Our cat, Whiskers, simply vanished from the house. Arthur's divisive comments escalated, becoming more pointed, more insidious. He was a master of sowing discord with seemingly innocent remarks. He whispered doubts to Mom about Dad's recent work stress, insinuating infidelity. Mom's worry lines deepened. Dad grew defensive. He told Dad that Leo was deliberately testing his patience, encouraging stricter discipline. Leo, already anxious, became more withdrawn and fearful. To me, he'd make comments about my choices, my friends, my future, making me feel constantly watched, judged, and insufficient. I felt exposed. Our once close family, a unit bound by love and laughter, began bickering constantly. Small arguments erupted over trivial things, then festered into resentments. The warmth in our home, once so vibrant, was slowly dissipating. It felt like a slow, insidious poisoning, eroding our bonds from within. Laughter became rare, replaced by strained silences and hushed, tense conversations. The air felt heavy, charged with an invisible pressure. A palpable chill settled in the house, not just metaphorical. Certain spots, particularly around Arthur, felt unnaturally cold, even on warm days. The house grew colder in specific areas. The corner where Arthur often sat, the hallway outside his room, these places radiated an icy dread. Buster now actively avoided Arthur, slinking away with his tail between his legs whenever the old man entered a room. He would hide under beds. Then came the staring. I started finding Arthur watching us while we slept, his presence in the doorway, a silent, unblinking sentinel. One night I woke to him standing at the foot of my bed. His face was shadowed, but I felt the weight of his gaze. My heart hammered. He just smiled, a thin, humorless line revealing too many teeth. Then he turned and shuffled away, leaving me trembling, too terrified to scream. The family's emotional state deteriorated rapidly. Mom became a shadow of her former self, withdrawn and constantly on edge, her joy extinguished. Dad, overwhelmed by stress, grew increasingly irritable. He snapped at us over trivialities, his patience worn thin by the constant, unseen pressure. Leo's anxiety manifested in constant nightmares. He'd wake screaming, clinging to me, terrified of shadows, convinced someone was watching him. I felt a crushing, suffocating dread whenever Arthur was near. His presence was a heavy blanket, stealing our breath, our peace. Attempts to discuss his behavior were futile. He'd feign confusion or twist our words, turning our concerns into accusations against us. Guilt trips followed. The house itself felt different, colder, heavier. It was no longer our home. It was a cage, slowly being squeezed tighter by an unseen force. I knew I had to do something. My gut screamed that Arthur was the cause, the source of this insidious unraveling. I needed proof. One afternoon, while Arthur was supposedly napping, I crept into his room. My heart pounded against my ribs like a trapped bird. Hidden beneath some old clothes, I found it. A small, crude doll. Made of twigs, it was bound with strands of my family's hair, each a different color. Beside it, a leather-bound journal. Its pages were filled with unsettling observations about our auras and energies, and diagrams of family connections. My blood ran cold as I read about the feeding cycle, the weakening of bonds. It detailed our family's slow descent into discord. A soft click. I looked up. Arthur stood silently in the doorway, his frail facade gone. His eyes glowed with a chilling, predatory intelligence. A terrifying, non-physical confrontation ensued. His voice, now a low, raspy whisper, filled the room, describing his true nature. He was something ancient, parasitic, feeding on our familial bonds, our love, our fear. He reveled in our unraveling, his smile a grotesque sneer. My scream ripped through the house, drawing Mom and Dad. They saw it too, not a physical transformation, but the chilling malevolence in his eyes. The details are hazy, terrifying. We forced him out somehow. The house was cleansed, but the emotional scars remained deep, requiring years of healing. True horror isn't just a monster. It wears the face of family, feeding on love. Is Arthur truly gone, or did he just move on? The invitation, once given, lingers. Story 3. My brother Alex and I faced clearing our childhood home after our parents' sudden passing. The attic, full of dusty memories, was our final dreaded task. This happened to me. Every box, every trinket brought fresh grief. The house felt hollow. We'd put off the attic for weeks, dreading its emotional weight. It was more than just cleaning. Alex, always practical, insisted we tackle it. It has to be done, he'd said, his voice thick with sorrow. I knew he was right. The attic held their deepest secrets. Climbing those creaking stairs felt like stepping into another dimension. The air was thick with aged paper. Every shadow seemed to hold a whisper of what once was. We started methodically, sorting old holiday decorations, childhood toys, and countless forgotten items. It was a bittersweet archaeology of their lives. I felt their comforting presence. Then, in a cluttered corner, behind a loose panel I'd never noticed, Alex found it. Decades of insulation concealed it perfectly. Our parents were meticulous, but this was different. A small, hidden compartment. My heart pounded. What could they hide here? It wasn't for valuables. It felt deliberate, secretive. A chill ran down my spine despite the attic's warmth. Inside were several leather-bound journals, covers cracked with age. Beside them, a stack of faded monochrome photographs bound with brittle twine. They looked ancient. We pulled them out, dust motes dancing in the faint light. A strange solemnity filled the air. This wasn't just junk, it was important, personal, a true secret. The journals felt heavy, ominous. The photographs radiated forgotten energy. We knew we'd stumbled upon more than keepsakes. This was a dark secret. We sat cross-legged on the dusty floor, Alex opening the first journal. Our parents' familiar handwriting slowly transformed, becoming frantic, almost illegible, written in desperate haste. The earliest entries spoke of the presence. We exchanged glances. Maybe they were just stressed, I offered, trying to rationalize. Alex just kept reading, his brow furrowed. Then came mentions of containment. Our parents, usually so grounded, writing about containing something, it felt like a bizarre story. We dismissed it as eccentricity, a shared delusion. The entries grew darker, detailing a growing darkness in the house. The tone shifted from concern to fear, then to a chilling resignation. It wasn't a story, it was a testament. They spoke of strange occurrences, cold spots, whispers, things we'd always attributed to an old house settling, but reading it in their words, it felt different, more sinister. A shiver ran down my spine. Alex looked up, his face pale. "This isn't just stress, is it?" He whispered, his voice barely audible. The air in the attic suddenly felt heavy, charged. My rationalizations crumbled. The later entries detailed specific dates, specific rituals. Our parents weren't just observing, they were actively involved in something. The words "protect the children" appeared repeatedly, chilling us. They wrote about a veil they maintained, a seal they reinforced. It was a language of ancient protection, not modern living. We were reading the desperate struggle of our parents against something unseen. A growing dread settled over us. This wasn't just a family secret, it was a dangerous legacy. The attic, once a place of nostalgic comfort, now felt like a vault of unspeakable horrors. I felt watched. We couldn't stop reading. Each word pulled us deeper into their terrifying reality. The casual eccentricity we'd once considered was now a horrifying, palpable truth. Our parents had lived with fear. Then we turned to the photographs. At first glance, innocent family snapshots, birthdays, holidays, everyday moments. But as we looked closer, an unsettling pattern emerged, a consistent aberration. In multiple pictures, a persistent, unidentifiable shadow lurked in the background. It wasn't a trick of light. It was always there, just at the edge of the frame, a dark smudge on their happy memories. A family portrait from my 5th birthday showed it behind the curtains. A beach vacation photo had it clinging to the edge of a distant rock. It was a silent observer, always present, always lurking. Then the faces. In later photos, our parents' eyes seemed subtly distorted, a vacant, almost frightened look replacing their usual warmth. It was a gradual change, but undeniable once noticed. Their smiles, once genuine, became strained, forced. A chilling sense of something else being present, subtly influencing them, began to seep from the images. My stomach churned with dread. One photo, taken just months before they died, was the most disturbing. Our parents stood together, but behind them the shadow was clearer, almost defined. It looked like a hunched figure. Alex gasped. "It's been here all along," he whispered, tracing the outline of the shadow with a trembling finger. The journals, the photos, it was all connected. This was their truth, our terrifying inheritance. The innocent facade of our childhood crumbled. Our parents hadn't just lived in this house, they had coexisted with something malevolent, something they fought to keep contained. My blood ran cold. Every happy memory now felt tainted, viewed through the lens of this lurking horror. Was it always there, just out of sight, whispering in the corners of our lives? The thought was unbearable. We understood now. The frantic entries, the rituals, the containment. It wasn't madness. It was a desperate, lifelong battle, and we unknowingly had just walked right into the middle of it. I felt sick. The journals detailed increasingly desperate rituals our parents performed. They weren't just observing, they were actively maintaining a prison. The attic itself was a cage, reinforced by their will. They wrote about the entity's attempts to break free, its growing strength. The containment wasn't passive, it was an active, exhausting struggle. Our parents were guardians, sacrificing their peace. Then the terrifying realization dawned on us. By opening the compartment, we hadn't just found a secret. We had broken the containment. We had undone decades of their desperate work. My breath hitched. We had set free whatever they had fought so hard to keep imprisoned. The air grew colder, heavy with a malevolent presence. This wasn't just a story anymore. It was our immediate, horrifying reality. A subtle shift in the attic's atmosphere. The comforting dust suddenly felt like ash, the shadows more profound. We felt its presence, a prickling sensation on our skin, a silent, predatory gaze. It was free. The house, once filled with nostalgic silence, began to shift. The familiar creaks and groans took on a new, sinister quality. It was no longer the house settling. It was something else moving within. Cold spots appeared from nowhere, sudden pockets of icy air that lingered, even on warm days. They followed us, like invisible patches of dread, raising goosebumps on our arms. I'd feel it behind me. Faint whispers seemed to call our names when no one else was around. Barely audible, just at the edge of hearing, a distorted murmur that made us freeze, straining to understand. Was it our parents? Objects would subtly move or fall when our backs were turned. A book sliding off a shelf, a picture frame tilting, always just out of direct sight, leaving us questioning our sanity. It was playing with us. We started finding things out of place. A chair turned around, a door slightly ajar that we swore we'd closed. Small, insidious invasions of our perception, eroding our sense of security. The house was alive. The whispers grew clearer, no longer just murmurs. They coalesced into distorted fragments of our parents' voices, pleading and warning. Leave, run, they seemed to scream from the walls. I'll never forget that night. Shadows began to take on fleeting, unnatural shapes in our peripheral vision. A tall, gaunt figure in the hallway, a hunched form by the window. Gone the moment we directly looked, but undeniably there. The sense of being watched became an oppressive, constant weight. We felt eyes on us from every dark corner, every closed door. It seeped into our dreams, a nameless dread that never left. We were being hunted. Sleep became impossible. Every creak, every sigh of the wind was magnified into a monstrous threat. We huddled together, too terrified to be alone, but knowing it was with us in the house. It wasn't just the house anymore, it was inside us. The fear, the paranoia, the certainty that something ancient and evil was now free because of us. We had opened Pandora's box, and it was hungry. One night, unable to bear it, we returned to the now terrifying attic. We needed answers. A final, desperate journal entry lay open, almost calling to us. This was it, the truth. It revealed the full, horrifying truth. Our parents hadn't just contained it. They had offered themselves as a barrier, slowly consumed by its presence, their lives a living sacrifice. the price of our safety. As we read, the air grew frigid, biting. A tangible, malevolent force manifested, a swirling vortex of shadows and cold. The entity, no longer bound, revealed itself, fixing its ancient, hungry gaze directly upon us. Our parents' sacrifice wasted. We fled the house that night, never looking back. The entity's gaze burned into our minds. We didn't stop until we were miles away. The image of that monstrous form seared into our souls. We were survivors, but broken. The property was sold sight unseen, but the whisper followed us. To this day, Alex and I experience inexplicable cold spots, fleeting shadows, and the chilling certainty that some family secrets are best left buried, for the cost of unearthing them is far greater than any inheritance. It's still out there. Story 4. It was the summer of '98. My family and I desperately needed an escape. We found an old, isolated lake house in rural Maine, drawn by its rustic charm and the promise of quiet seclusion. This happened to me. Driving up the long, winding dirt road, the house emerged from the trees. It looked exactly like the pictures: weathered wood, a broad porch, and a sense of history clinging to its very structure. We felt excited. Unpacking the car, the air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and lake water. My kids, Emily and Josh, immediately ran off to explore the shoreline. My wife, Sarah, started arranging our belongings inside. The first few days were idyllic. We swam, fished, and told stories around a crackling campfire under a blanket of stars. The isolation felt like a blessing, a true respite from city life. It was perfect. The house itself, though old, felt welcoming, or so we thought. Its antique furniture and creaky floors added to its charm. We were ready for a peaceful, uneventful summer at our temporary retreat. Then subtle oddities began. I first noticed a persistent, unnatural chill in the master bedroom, even on the warmest afternoons. It was localized, a specific cold spot that defied explanation. I'd mention it to Sarah, but she'd just shrug, attributing it to the old house's poor insulation. But the chill wasn't drafty. It was a heavy, stagnant cold, as if something cold had always resided there. Then came the whispers, faint, indistinct murmurs that seemed to drift from empty rooms, especially after dark. They were too soft to decipher, like conversations held just out of earshot. I tried to ignore them. I'd dismiss them as the wind playing tricks on the old house, rattling the window panes or whistling through cracks. But the windows were closed and the air was still. The sounds persisted, unsettling me. An unsettling feeling of being watched also began to creep in. It wasn't paranoia, it was a palpable presence, a sense of eyes on me, especially when I was alone in the larger rooms. The feeling intensified at night. I'd turn quickly, expecting to see one of the kids or Sarah, but the room would be empty. The feeling would vanish for a moment, only to return with a chilling insistence, making the hairs on my neck stand up. One evening, while reading in the living room, I felt it strongly, a cold breath on my neck, though no one was near. I dropped my book, heart pounding. This wasn't the wind. This was something else entirely. Even the children, usually oblivious, started mentioning things. Emily, my eldest, asked why Josh, my youngest, often spoke of. I tried to rationalize their stories as vivid imaginations, fueled by the isolation. But a growing unease settled in my stomach. The idyllic summer was slowly, imperceptibly, turning sinister. One rainy afternoon, with the kids napping, I decided to explore the dusty attic. It was a forgotten space, filled with cobwebs and the lingering scent of aged wood and neglect. Old trunks, forgotten furniture, and boxes of faded memories were stacked haphazardly. The air felt heavy, stagnant, as if time itself had slowed to a crawl in this forgotten realm. I felt a strange compulsion. Behind a leaning wardrobe, tucked away in a dark corner, my hand brushed against something leathery. I pulled it out, a small, water-damaged journal, its cover peeling, its pages swollen. I carefully opened it, the brittle pages threatening to crumble. The handwriting was faded, but legible. It belonged to a woman named Elena Miller. This was her personal diary, detailing daily life in this very house. The entries spoke of a loving family, husband, 2 children, and the joy of their lake house. But then the tone shifted. Mentions of strange noises, cold spots, and a growing sense of dread began to appear. The journal detailed a tragic history. Elena wrote of her children becoming withdrawn, whispering about. The final entries were chilling. Elena described a growing fear, a sense of being unwelcome, and the house actively turning against them. The last entry simply read. The journal ended abruptly. No explanation, no resolution. Just the chilling implication that the Miller family had vanished from the house decades ago, fueling local rumors of a. My blood ran cold. The subtle oddities, the whispers, the feeling of being watched, they weren't random. They mirrored Elena's entries. We were experiencing the same terror. This was not a coincidence. The chilling certainty settled in. The Miller family never left. They were still here, trapped, and we were intruding on their eternal nightmare. The house wasn't just old, it was occupied. After finding the journal, the occurrences intensified dramatically. It was as if our discovery had stirred something, angered it. Objects began to move on their own, not subtly, but with purpose. I watched a teacup slide across the kitchen counter, stopping precisely at the edge. Another time, Sarah screamed when a framed photograph flew off the mantelpiece, shattering on the floor. Distinct footsteps echoed through empty rooms, heavy and deliberate. They weren't the creaks of an old house settling. They were rhythmic, purposeful steps, pacing back and forth in the master bedroom, then the hallway. We'd rush to investigate, only to find nothing. The footsteps would cease the moment we arrived, leaving an oppressive silence in their wake. It felt like a cruel game, a taunt. The children's innocent chatter about. Emily described a little girl who. Josh, with wide, terrified eyes, said. Their words were too specific, too consistent with the journal. My heart hammered with dread. This wasn't imagination. They were seeing them, hearing them, experiencing the same terror as the Millers. We tried to pretend it wasn't happening, to cling to normalcy. But the house wouldn't let us. It was actively asserting its presence, making it impossible to ignore the supernatural. Every creak, every shadow, every unexpected sound sent a jolt of fear through us. The lake house, once a sanctuary, had become a cage, and we were trapped with its vengeful inhabitants. The house became actively hostile. Doors, previously left ajar, would slam shut with violent force, rattling the entire structure. We started barricading doors at night, but it felt futile. One morning, Sarah found all the kitchen cabinet doors flung open, pots and pans scattered across the floor. It was a deliberate act of chaos, a clear message of our unwelcome presence. Unseen hands tugged at my clothes, a chilling phantom grip that would pull at my shirt or hair. It was a terrifying, intimate violation, a physical assault from something invisible. Then came the night Josh woke up screaming. We rushed to his room, finding him cowering in his bed, tears streaming down his face. His arm was covered in red, angry scratches. They were clearly not self-inflicted. 3 long, parallel marks, as if from sharp nails. The sight of them solidified our worst fears. This wasn't just psychological anymore. It was physical, dangerous. Desperate, I went back to the attic, hoping for answers. As I scanned the dusty floorboards, a message, freshly scratched into the thick dust, appeared before my eyes. My breath hitched. The words were stark, undeniable. It was them, the Miller family. Their resentment was palpable, their claim absolute. This was their home, and we were trespassers. Their message was a terrifying final warning. That night, a terrifying thunderstorm rolled in. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder cracked overhead, and lightning illuminated the house in blinding flashes. The perfect backdrop for our final nightmare. The house erupted. Glass shattered somewhere upstairs. Guttural screams, not human, echoed through the walls. The air grew frigid, heavy with an unseen, malevolent presence. We huddled together in the living room, terrified. Furniture levitated around us, chairs and tables hovering impassibly in the air before crashing down with bone-jarring force. The invisible entities were making their violent claim, reclaiming their rightful home. We were under siege, trapped in a maelstrom of unseen fury. This was their declaration of war. With a desperate surge of adrenaline, I grabbed the kids and Sarah. We barely escaped, fleeing into the torrential rain, leaving everything behind. The screams of the house followed us. As we sped away, the house stood dark and silent, its malevolent gaze following us from every window. It was over, but the image of its silent judgment was burned into my memory. We never returned. The memories, the terror, and the chilling certainty that the Millers never truly left forever changed us. Sometimes I still feel a cold breath on my neck, a phantom whisper reminding me that some homes are never truly empty. Story 5. Mark and I settled into our new home, delighted by Lily's boundless imagination. Our 4-year-old daughter filled the house with joy. One afternoon, Lily introduced us to her new imaginary friend, Mr. Buttons. He became her constant companion. We found it endearing. Mr. Buttons became a regular topic. Lily's vivid descriptions of their adventures made his presence undeniable. Then unease began. Lily mentioned Mr. Buttons knew where Mark hid my birthday gift. How could she possibly know? We laughed it off, attributing it to Lily's sharp ears. We sought a logical explanation for the coincidence. Days later, Lily recounted a private conversation. Mr. Buttons told her everything. Our amusement was now tinged with chill. The unease deepened. Mr. Buttons seemed privy to our private moments. It felt invasive, an unsettling knot in my stomach. Lily's descriptions of Mr. Buttons grew more vivid. Big, shiny buttons for eyes. Her words sent shivers down my spine. Mark tried to rationalize, but couldn't shake the dread. We started whispering, guarding our words. Our home felt shadowed. Lily's play revolved around Mr. Buttons' suggestions. Her dull scenarios felt oddly dark. Joy drained from her eyes. Her sweet demeanor shifted. Lily became withdrawn, conversing alone with her invisible friend, growing secretive. She'd whisper in corners, staring intently at empty spaces. She kept secrets with Mr. Buttons. We were losing her. Mark and I stayed up late, whispering fears. It's not normal, is it? Our sanctuary felt shadowed. An alarming shift in her eyes. Her gaze would harden, losing innocence, replaced by something cold, not our Lily. Occasionally, her voice took on a deeper monotone quality when with Mr. Buttons. A jolt of ice through my veins. Erratic behavior began. Lily tore pages from books, blaming Mr. Buttons. Her eyes held a chilling glint. Objects broke. A vase, a photo. Lily always blamed Mr. Buttons, his suggestions becoming commands. Our dog, Buster, avoided her. He was scratched. Lily said Mr. Buttons told her to make him quiet. Our fear for Lily morphed into fear of Lily. She was fading, replaced by something malevolent. Mark and I argued, desperate. He thought it psychological. I felt a darker presence. Our home was a battleground. The cold glint in Lily's eyes grew. It spoke of ancient malice, devoid of warmth, too old for a child. Her words carried menace. Mr. Buttons says you're being bad, terrifying from our sweet girl. We were losing her, piece by piece, to this entity. Mr. Buttons was erasing our daughter. Desperation consumed us. This wasn't a phase, it was an insidious invasion. We needed help now. We started with child psychologists. Their theories didn't help. We felt time was running out. Tests offered no medical explanation for Lily's shift. Psychologists were baffled, but we needed answers. Exhausted, we sought alternative avenues. Mark, a skeptic, agreed. We found a paranormal investigator. Alina, the investigator, listened. She spoke of attachments and entities, validating our fears. During a visit, Lily pointed to an old portrait. Mr. Buttons says the old lady fell down. Stunned, my grandmother revealed a forgotten secret. A relative, Martha, died violently in our house, falling downstairs. Lily, through Mr. Buttons, recounted exact details of Martha's death. Only the deceased could know this. Horrifying realization. Mr. Buttons wasn't imaginary. He was Martha's vengeful spirit, choosing our daughter. Alina confirmed our fears. The spirit is feeding on Lily, preparing to take her. Exorcism was mentioned. Confrontation was inevitable. Mr. Buttons' hold was near complete. Lily's features sneered. We had to fight. With Alina's guidance, we prepared. Rituals, blessed objects, prayers. The house grew thick with presence. That night's silence, Lily lay rigid, eyes wide. A low, guttural voice emanated from her. The battle began. You can't take her, the voice rasped, not Lily's. She's mine, my new vessel. Mr. Buttons spoke. I am Martha, the voice continued. Trapped, angry, this house was mine, and now Lily will be too. We fought. Mark held a crucifix. I clutched Lily's hand, begging her to fight the darkness within. Lily thrashed, her body arching unnaturally. The unseen force resisted, rattling objects. A battle for her soul. Alina poured holy water, chanting. The spirit shrieked from Lily's mouth, tearing through us. The presence fought, throwing objects, creating shadowy apparitions. A terrifying display of rage. Then a flicker, Lily's eyes cleared. Mommy, she whispered, her own voice. Hope surged. Elena's final push. A blinding flash, a deafening scream. Then silence. The house trembled. Lily lay still, unconscious, breathing calmly. The cold lifted. Elena collapsed. We had exorcised it. The experience left indelible scars. Lily remembered nothing. We remembered every chilling detail. We sold the house, leaving dark memories. Moved far away, seeking sanctuary. We desperately hoped he couldn't follow. Lily returned to her vibrant self. But sometimes a shadow crossed her eyes, a knowing look. Trick of light. The memory of Mr. Buttons haunts us. What happened to Lily's innocence? We wonder if a part of him lingers. We watch Lily, searching for that cold glint. We pray he's gone, but in her bright eyes, I swear I see a shadow.